in an era where so much is talked about success and the hustle culture and productivity and study tips and advices. There are so many channels talking about that. If you want tips like that, this is not the video. There are lots of channels talking about it. You should probably head over there. But I think not enough is talked about all the failures people have gone through during their journeys and the setbacks that might have happened. So today's video is going to in focus. Is today a good day to talk about failures? Okay, I'm ready. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, then hi, my name is Monisha. I moved to the UK in the year 2018. I am currently doing my co-training, that's residency in the specialty psychiatry here in London. I am towards the tail end of my training now, and I thought, if not today, then when is a good time to talk about all my failures. Today's video is going to be a bit of a rambly one. If you're here to look for information about, my journey, about the exams, the licensing exams that I sat, and in general about what residency looks like, this is probably not the video for you. There are lots of videos on my channel. I will link down playlists below, or just go onto my channel and organize them into playlists so you can watch them there. Today's video is basically about all the failures I've encountered. I've sat down and listed failures all the way going back to my schooling days to kind of bring it up to speed to where I am now and what are the current challenges I'm currently facing. The reason I'm making this video is that in an era or in a world where so much is talked about, your success and the hustle culture and productivity and study tips and advices, there are so many channels talking about that. If you want tips like that, this is not the video. There are lots of channels talking about it. You should probably head over there. But I think not enough is talked about all the failures people have gone through during their journeys and the setbacks that might have happened. So today's video is going to dive into all of that that's taken place in my life. I have got a drink, which is lemon water. Grab yourself a drink, tea, coffee, whatever your drink of liking is, and just, this is going to be a chatty one. Alright, so I'm going to straight off the bat, talk about why am I making this video about failures. No matter how successful someone is, whether it's a CEO of some massive company or someone who is a medical student or any student in general, they are all going to encounter failures in their life. Whether it's an exam or it's a business avenue, there's always a 50% chance of you failing and 50% chance of you succeeding, and that's just how it goes, and that's how it goes at life as well. There are not always going to be wins, there's going to be failures, and those are also the building blocks of our life and our journey in general. So going back, all the way back, rewind mode, I'm going to take you all the way back to my schooling days. So I'm originally from India, and I spent my growing up years in a state called Andhra Pradesh, which is now called Telangana. This was pre-partition of the state, and that's where I spent it in a very small village called Ramagundam, which is a few hours away from the capital city, Hyderabad. I went to a convent school till the age of, I want to say 10, and then I went to a government school, which was 𝐄𝐦𝐴 till the age of 15. Going back to my days of growing up, I was, one of those kids who scored above 90%, all the Indian parents that desired those scores. I was one of those kids. But having said that, I was never the first ranker in the class. I got good grades, but I also kind of dedicated my time to extracurricular activities, whether it was elocution competitions, debates, dancing, painting, archery, yoga. I learned it all. I was sent to so many extracurricular classes growing up, and this was because of my mom. She just pushed me into these classes, and back then, looking back on it, I absolutely did not enjoy it, but I'm so grateful she pushed me to attend all of these classes, because I will get to the part later, but putting a bit of context to who I am now, growing up years, those formative years of my life, which definitely shaped me and which made me see that academics are not the only thing in your life. You need to have a life outside of just sitting and studying your maths, biology, English, or whatever your subjects are. So I was always focused on doing extra outside of my school, so I was never the first ranker. I was always a bit different from the kids at my school because my mom would accompany to these dance performances performances, whether it was in Delhi or it was in, the main city in Hyderabad, while people would attend classes, and my mom would put in a request for leave so that I could do performances or I could participate in painting competitions. My dad would accompany me to Hyderabad, where I would participate in this state level painting competition. So that was always my life. I never really topped in school, and that's always been the case till date. I have never topped in any of my academics. I've always just gotten what is required. Then came the 10th standard board exams, which are sort of the GCSEs, how they're called here in the UK, and that went by. And then everybody where I was basically studying would go into these coaching centers. Like there was Narayana, and there was, I can't remember other places. Everybody was going into these coaching institutions, coaching places, and they were so focused. Although my parents expected me to do the same as well, but my headspace wasn't at that. I was very grateful and very privileged to go into a boarding school in 11th and 12th standard. So I went to one in Madhya Pradesh, which was India. I have so much gratitude, and I owe so much to that school because it really shaped me. Like, definitely, I think it polished me into being who I am today. I focused not just on my academics, so I chose maths and biology both. In return, I participated in national level debate competitions. I performed in, state level performances for dance because I was a trained classical dancer. All of that happened in those 2 years, and that just made me realize that if I just put all my eggs in one basket, which is in terms of my energy and my headspace, I am going to collapse and I'm going to burn out very quickly in life. And this was the headspace of a 16-year-old, mind you. So that's what I realized, that I have to devote my time to things that are necessary to get ahead in career. I should also devote time to myself, things that I enjoy doing, or else I wouldn't have the energy to put into, my career goals. So basically, the word balance, which my channel stands for, was sort of in my ethos going back to my, formative years or my teenage years. Okay, so this is where the first proper hardcore failure happens, all right? So your 11th and 12th are kind of like your A-level years compared to here in the UK. I hope I'm saying it right. The GCSEs are like the 10th standard in India, and your A-levels in the UK are like your 11th and 12th in India. I hope so I'm right. If not, please comment down below and correct me. So this is where my first hardcore failure happened. This was right after 11th and 12th standard, and everybody was, all guns blazing, preparing for their PMT exams, AIPMT. So this is all India PMT back in the day. I am that old, guys. Currently it's called NEET UG exams in India. Everybody was so focused and so determined. Well, I was much more focused on concentrating on my extracurriculars, and I think all of that really helped me currently now where I am. Anyway, so that's what the story was. I did not get into MBBS. I didn't get a medical seat in a government college. That was that. Obviously all heartbroken and dejected, and I was like, oh my god, this is the end of the world. And that's how it feels in the moment, when you have a failure. My parents asked me, do you want to give it another shot, or what's your plan from here? And I was like, you know what, maybe I can do it, let me give another shot. And off I was shipped off to Kota in Rajasthan for a year to take 1 year drop. I was not able to understand that how am I supposed to just wake up and study, go back to sleep, and wake up in the morning and again study for 365 days of your life. That's like an entire year of your life gone. When the results came out, I again did not get into a government medical college because that is supposed to be the benchmark of success in India when you're doing your undergraduate degree, your MBBS or your PG. So if you don't get into a government college, people who do it from private colleges are really looked down upon, and people look at them with the vision of that, oh, these are unsuccessful people, they are not good enough, and that's why they're doing it in private medical college. In India, when you're on that headspace, don't understand very much is that we come from a 1.6 or whatever the number is billion population. The number of medical seats are really less. I'm from a general category. I don't have any reservations. I'm not in any way giving excuses for what my result was, but what I'm trying to explain is that there is not just one reason as to why something doesn't work out. Obviously, I did not put in the efforts that I should have, maybe dedicated 365 days of my life, but I was not willing to sacrifice that, put things into perspective wherein I didn't get in. So that was a big failure. Lots of family friends and lots of relatives and all kind of questioned, and my parents asked me this question again, are you sure you want to be a doctor? Because they're both doctors. So my dad was an anesthetist and my mom is an obstetrician and gynecologist. So they have been through the drill and they've both been to government medical colleges and they've studied and they know what it's like. As much as getting into a government college for your MBBS is difficult, it's 10 times harder getting into a government medical college for your PG. My answer was that I don't know what's going to happen so far ahead in PG or whatever. But having said that, I said that I definitely know I want to be a doctor, and that's all I have seen since I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. I'm very grateful. I'm always forever going to have this gratitude towards my parents that, you know, I was privileged enough to go into a private medical college. That was a story, and that was my first failure. And so when I went to medical college, my mom very clearly told me, see, you've been given an opportunity, to not waste it, make the most of it. So that was a headspace I was at throughout my MBBS years. But I couldn't mellow down my other voice in my head telling me that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to look back in your life and be like, oh, I just was so focused on one thing that I lost out on opportunities which were coming my way. So during my MBBS years, I did not fail any of my exams throughout my MBBS. Having said that, I did not top any of my exams either. I was more focused again on, you know, participating in dance competitions, in elocutions, debates, traveling, attending concerts, reviewing concerts as well. I had lots of opportunities, and every opportunity that was thrown at me, I grabbed it with both my hands. So I never topped. My closest friends who are right now my group of friends, they were all studious bunch and they were the toppers. I never topped, and I made my peace with it. I was like, you know what, not everybody is set on this planet to top their exams. I just wanted to be a good doctor, be focused, study, but it was never like grinding in library at like 3 a.m. I was like 9 p.m, close my books, I'm going to watch something. So that was always where my head's been at. So I spent my 20s, roaring 20s in Pune, and I learned so much. Pune was a steep learning curve. I had some of the most amazing friendships who are still my friends to this very day. I had my first proper heartbreak, which felt like it's the end of the world. I just came into my own and I was in Pune. Having said that, failures always aren't academic. I think I also failed at life. I was very immature. I wasn't very understanding. I had, you know, failed relationships. But I think everything in life comes with a silver lining, and the reason things didn't work out with, you know, whoever is because I had to become the person who I am to then meet, you know, my best friend, my partner in crime, someone I freaking absolutely love, you know, he was my boyfriend and is now my husband. So I think things don't work out and you encounter failures in your life because they shape you and they get you ready to, you know, finally accept when it's your time to taste success. So that was another failure that happened in terms of life, but it made me to be who I am, and it made me meet the right person at the right time in my life. Then came experience with failure, which was post MBBS. Finished my internship, came the time of NEET PG. Everybody was focused towards giving PG exams. Oh my god, so everyone's doing it, I need to do it. So I tried, I genuinely tried, and halfway through my trial of 6 to 7 months, I just ragged my parents up one day and I told them, you know what, I cannot do this. I have been here 6 years back, pre-MBBS, and I know I will not succeed. I am so proud of myself because it takes courage in knowing what your shortcomings are, and I have always known my shortcomings in life. So I told my parents, this is not my cup of tea, I cannot do this. I am changing my journey. Basically not willing to sacrifice 3 years of my life, you know, for shitty pay, for being bullied, inhuman hours, and basically just staying in the hospital for a ridiculous amount of time and your life sort of being consumed by that. Everybody said, oh, it gets better after that. But what is the guarantee that it gets better after that? I couldn't see myself living that life. I knew I came from a place of privilege and understanding, and I thought, you know what, if not now, then when? So I decided to create another option for myself back then in 2017, and I decided to give PLAB exams a go. My parents both come from very humble beginnings. They built their lives from ground level zero. They did not have any sort of support, whether it was financially, emotionally, or academically from their own families. They never knew what, the whole concept of moving out of India was, what the exams would be, how long it would take. I just told them, you know what, leave it up to me. I am going to figure it out. I'm going to ask around. I'm going to get all the information. You don't have to worry about any of my paperwork, about anything. The only thing I require from your end is if you would be willing to financially support me to give these exams. But once I'm done with the exams, I'll be completely financially independent. I'm not going to be relying on you for money and everything. Again, I'm so grateful and I'm so privileged. Obviously, it comes from a position of privilege where I'm able to say this, and I know that very well. So if before you come at me in comments saying that not everybody comes from similar circumstances, I very well know that. I had an opportunity and I grabbed it with both my hands. My parents were like, are you sure? But I had full faith. I was like, you know what, it's going to work out. Just leave it up to me. I'll figure my way around. I obviously did not get my NEET post-graduation because I was not willing to sacrifice my life to just sit and study. The other reason that I also feel that my NEET PG, I didn't end up giving it anyway, but the other reason why I decided not to give NEET PG is because I looked at people's lives who were doing residency, who were going into residency. My friends had gotten in, and my dad used to always tell me that, in India at the age of 40 you're a young blossoming doctor, because that's the kind of culture that he came from, and I just didn't get it. I would never understand it, and also I think I was not meant for it. So I just said that, you know what, just close this chapter and just focus on PLAB. So that was my second bout of failure with NEET PG exams, and then came the next failure. So when I started my PLAB journey, the first part is IELTS OAT exam. I gave IELTS, I was fine, cleared it. Then I gave my PLAB 1 exam, which is a MCQ based exam. I failed my PLAB 1 exam by 1 mark. Whatever it is, 1 mark, 10 marks, I failed my PLAB 1 exam. That was shattering. I don't want to make it an excuse. I wasn't in a good headspace, and my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and that wasn't a very fun time for me and my family, and obviously for my dad himself as well. And then my dad asked me, do you really see yourself living outside of India? Is this really your dream? And I was like, yes, it is. So he said, then fine, go for it. Don't worry about it. Just apply for it again and reset the exam. I resat the exam again and I passed PLAB 1 exam. Then came PLAB 2 exam, and I was so sure it's an 𝐈𝐦𝐻𝐸 exam. My communication skills are great. I'm going to be completely fine. And I failed my PLAB 2 exam. That was a shocker for me, and I'm so glad I failed it, and I'll tell you why shortly. So I resat my PLAB 2 exam with a different kind of approach. I literally sat and made flashcards for each and every single station. I practiced more with myself. I spoke in front of the mirror, in front of the camera to see what it looks like. So my studying style changed, my studying techniques changed. This sort of preparation stayed with me over the years, which helped me during my Royal College exams, and I will get to that in a bit. But it also kind of prepped me for failures which were to come ahead in my life. Since then, I think something my mom, my dad told me, exams are just meant to be given. There's always a 50% chance you're going to pass it and 50% chance you're going to fail it. And that's something I have remembered ever since. They said that if you want to resit it, we are here to support you. Just give the exam again. So I resat my PLAB 2 exam and I passed my PLAB 2 exam. So anyway, PLAB 1, PLAB 2 done, got my GMC registration, received a job within a month of, applying for jobs, and I moved to the UK. Fast forwarded to doing my non-training job, which was fine. Then I sat the MSRA exams and the interview, and I got into co-training in London, which went fine. And my next bout of failures came with MRC Psych exams, which are the membership or the Royal College exams. I failed my MRC Psych theory papers, paper A and paper B, which are theory papers, and I'll tell you exactly why. There came a time when, again, I had to sacrifice my time. Basically, I had to walk in, come back home at 5 p.m. and get freshened up and sit and study. Just had to devote my time to do that and not have a life outside of that, which, as you all can tell by now, I never be able to do that, where I have to completely sacrifice my time to just sit and study. So I chose to enjoy summers in London. I chose to go out and explore when the lockdown eased. I chose to meet up with my friends. I chose to make plans. I chose to film content. I chose to travel the world. I refused to just work and study. That was never on my agenda. And so yeah, so I was like, you know what, I've faced this in the past. If I'm not willing to sacrifice 100% of my time to just sit and study, I'm going to fail these exams, and if that happens, it happens. There was this one time when it was a paper B exam and the world had suddenly reopened again, basically its borders during COVID time, and it was a difficult few years for expats, especially when we weren't allowed to meet our families. My exam was approaching and I just decided to book a flight and go spend 1 month in India. And I got to spend that 1 month with my mom and my sister and my grandparents and my extended family. That to me holds much more value than me having passed a theory paper. I was like, it's okay, it's gonna come back again, I'm gonna have an opportunity to resit it and I'll take it then. Like I've always said, there's a silver lining to everything that happens in your life. Every time I have failed a theory paper, I was a lone ranger. I've always studied on my own. I've never understood the concept of, you know, group studying, and boy oh boy was I wrong. So having failed these exams, my paths crossed with someone who was also preparing for these exams at the same time. This person became my study buddy, my best friend, and someone I have sort of gained out of my co-training here in London, and we sat the theory papers together. I learned so much. I learned that, you know, you consolidate your learning much more when you do it in a group setting more than you doing it alone. That's been my learning out of these failures, and now every time I'm going to have to sit an exam or sit for an interview, I know I have a companion to bounce off ideas with, or, you know, discuss as to how to approach a difficult situation. Then we finally both together passed our theory papers, and out of which I gained a best mate as well. So this meant that having now passed my both theory papers, I had a consistent study partner. If I would have passed my theory papers before, I wouldn't have come across a study partner, because this then meant I had a consistent person to study for my final ever exam as a doctor, which was the MRC Psych, you know, the third part, which is the CASC exam, which is an 𝐈𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐿 exam. Alright, now going back to when I had failed my PLAB 2 exam, I knew what I needed to do was make flashcards for each and every single station, and that's what I did for my CASC exam. I literally have hundreds of flashcards, every single different setting of every station, and I had one of the best study partners who was a consistent study partner with me, because we prepared for theory papers together as well. So I literally had all ammunition, all guns blazing, went for these exams, and probably CASC exam is the first exam since my MBBS that I passed on my first attempt. It makes the victory taste so much more sweeter, given this was the final exam ever as a doctor. It is an expensive exam, and also I felt like all my failures led up to this, so I kind of knew what has worked and what hasn't worked for me in the past with all the exams that I sat, and that's the reason why I feel like I was much more prepared going into this exam. I knew where my headspace needed to be at. I knew I shouldn't let the exam stress get to me, because it's a 𝐈𝐸𝐻𝐸𝐿 exam. I had to be very level-headed. It had to be more conversational. So all of the things, I think I'll make a video about MRC Psych CASC exams anyway. But I knew, like, you know, having failed my PLAB exam, what was required, and I also knew what went wrong in the preparation of my PLAB 2 exam, and also having a consistent study partner with whom you've sat exams for a year and you've prepared together, so your frequencies, your energies, your timetable sort of match, and you're so much more comfortable with each other. Can't call, you know, bullshit for bullshit. You're like not going to sugarcoat and be like, oh yeah, you did the station well. All of the failures, you know, sort of led up to this moment, and I'm so glad and so grateful that I have failed so many times in my life. Having said that, is this the end of my journey in terms of failures? No, it's not, because currently I'm tackling a beast, which is driving tests. So I have failed my practical driving test 3 times by now, latest one being last week when I'm filming this. So that's what I'm tackling right now. That's the failure that I'm encountering, and hopefully I can pass it the next time I sit it, whenever that is. I completely understand that, you know, when failures happen in that moment, it absolutely sucks. It's horrible, it's heartbreaking, but when you look back on it, they are the stepping stones to building you for who you are, and also preparing you for something bigger that's awaiting you. I just wanted to make this video to let you know that I have encountered so many failures as well in my life, like you have heard so far, and there are going to be much more failures, you know, that are awaiting me, and this is not the end of it. I try to find silver linings or positives now whenever, you know, I encounter a failure. I always try to think that, okay, why did this happen? You know, obviously it's trying to teach me something. So what is it trying to teach me, or what is it trying to tell me? Or maybe this wasn't my time. It makes it easier for me to then, you know, digest what's happened rather than me harping on the fact that why is it happening to me. I just wanted to make this video to tell you that I am just a basic girl who is on her own journey and has encountered so many failures, and I just wanted to humanize my journey because, like I've always said, social media is just a highlight reel and what you see is not the complete picture. In the background there's so much effort and hard work, all of that goes into it. I am a girl who is not willing to sacrifice living her life. I am going to continue to travel the world, explore, and continue with my hobbies, whether it's content creation or, you know, try out new experiences. That's just who I am. I don't think I would be who I am. I don't want the tag of being a doctor define me, and I don't want the tag of being this medic influencer completely defined. It's a bit of a rambly one. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and this is the end of it. If you did like the video, then comment down below, consider liking the video, and if you haven't yet subscribed, then do consider subscribing to my channel. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.